Now it's the time for the wonderful presentation on fair value approach to investing, presented by Mr. Vinay Paharia, Chief Investment Officer, Union Asset Management Company Private Limited. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dimple, and a warm welcome to all the participants. Um, so, as Dimple highlighted, my topic for the day, and which I'm going to talk about, is fair value approach to investing. What I will do is I will divide my talk into two parts. First is a very short presentation along with some details on this entire approach, and then I will reserve some time for questions and answers so as to ensure that it's much more interactive than a monologue. Um, so I will start with my presentation. I hope it is visible to everyone. Um, I'm sure all of you have used Google Maps, right? Google Maps is one of the most popular application, or was one of the most popular application before the pandemic. And the three use cases for the Google Maps app was first is knowing the required time to destination. It helps us take the shortest route to destination, and also while you are on the road, it helps you change route real time based on incoming traffic details to achieve optimum results. Can we have something like this for our own financial goals as well? We thought yes, and there enters the fair values. So, what is fair value? In simple terms, fair value is just like your popular P multiple or price to book multiple. It is a multiple along with a value driver. So if the value driver is core book value or core earnings, we have the fair value multiple applied to that, which is based on four factors. The four factors are returns on equity, growth in earnings, the risk-free rate of return, and fourth is the riskiness of cash flow. So all of these four factors produce a multiple which is unique for each and every company. So just like no two humans have similar fingerprints, no two companies will also have a same multiple because they will have a different factor amongst all of these four factors. So that produces a different fair value for each and every company. And now the similarity between Google Map and the fair value approach. The fair value helps us understand the expected returns which we can make over the medium to long term, right at the time of making investing. So I'm sure all of you are also when you would start planning for your clients, you would want to understand what sort of potential returns my clients can make whenever you invest in any security or in any asset. This approach helps us understand what is the potential return which I can get when I invest in equity. Second, it helps us understand which is the basket of stocks which can produce maximum potential returns. So the optimal returns, like for example, for any destination, there are multiple roads to that destination. Google Maps helps us tells us which is the best road or best route. Same is with this approach. It helps us tell which is the best and optimal portfolio to achieve the maximum potential return. Third is it helps us in trading in stocks. So just like routes, when there is traffic, we change the route. Similarly, when business environments change, the fair value also changes. Fair value is a live concept. It is not a passive concept. So if the price to value changes materially, the potential returns change. Then we trade, we buy stocks or assets where the potential return is higher and sell ones where the potential returns are lower. I will quickly now go to some of the other aspects of this approach. So as you would notice, we are talking about the approach being applied to growth companies. So we actually within our process segment all the companies into just two buckets. One is growth and second is bargain. We don't call them as value because according to us all investing is value investing. So growth companies are typically those companies where the fair values are compounding at a very fast pace. In such companies, we are even comfortable buying them at a small premium to their current fair values, because the potential returns, as is visible by the dotted line, can be reasonably attractive even if there is some derating in price to value. However, when we are buying bargains, which are companies where the compounding in fair value is very, very low, we necessarily want to buy them at a big, deep discount to their current fair value. And the reason is that the potential returns will be a summation of one, fair value growth, and two, the market re-rating over a 3 to 5 year period. This slide highlights what are value traps. Value traps are typically companies, and the signature of a value trap is
I am not
fall
able to
in fair
hear
value.
on laptop.
Remember, over time, price and value both meet each other. In a bargain company, share price goes up and meets the fair value because value is compounding positively. Whereas in a value trap, the fair value falls to meet the share price, which is very bad for an investor. So what kind of companies could be value traps? These are companies whose businesses are prone to disruption. So for example, a lubricant company, we all know that internal combustion engines face a sunset due to advent of electric vehicles, and hence utilization of lubricants would fall. Plus, as more and more advanced engines are made, the utilization for lubricants is any which way is falling. Print media companies, clearly there is a fall in advertising through print, and all of such businesses actually face sunset in their business, in their terminal value, and hence we should not get attracted by the cheap P multiple at which they trade, because this is because they are facing a sunset and they could be potentially value traps. So as I was talking about changing route real time, same is happening in fair values. The fair values get updated on a real-time basis. It's dynamic concept. So as you would see that one of the biggest examples of that is the pandemic. The pandemic had a big impact on the entire ecosystem of businesses. However, there were certain businesses which either benefited, certain businesses where the impact was minimal, and certain businesses where the impact was substantial and structural. Our approach helped us to understand where the impact was substantial and structural, and these were the companies where we had substantially reduced our exposure towards companies where either they were benefited or they had a minimal impact, but the stock prices were factoring in a much bigger impact. So now we are moving on to something which is much more topical, much closer to heart for a lot of market participants, which is how are markets valued, and what is our view on the market. So this slide is much very proprietary, and it helps us judge where are the market valuations on a very, very quantitative basis. So first and foremost, this slide shows how the underlying fair value for Nifty is very much correlated to nominal GDP growth. There is a lot of confusion in popular media that there is no relation between GDP and the markets, etc. However, our internal research clearly points out that there is a very tight correlation between GDP and fair value, and as you would see in the next slide, between fair value and market prices. So this slide is a very crucial slide. In fact, one of the most important slides, which helps us derive our market opinions, and it is quite different than most of the popular market perceptions. So as you would see, the fair value of Nifty is depicted by the red line, and the actual Nifty as on the year end is depicted by the blue line. The markets are very tightly correlated with the fair value, as is visible in this chart. The only point of big divergence was in 2015 March and during the pandemic, that is in 31st of March 2020, wherein in 31st of March we saw almost a 25% discount to fair value. However, most market participants at that point of time were looking at Nifty P multiple, which is depicted by the green line. So the green line shows Nifty profits. Clearly, the profits are not showing up. We have written a whole white paper on that. Today's talk is, we are not going to discuss too much about that, but there are various reasons why Nifty's P multiple is absolutely it's going to give you an erroneous outcome in terms of judging market values, simply because of the way the indices are constructed, because the indices keep changing their constituents, and because of something called as the sum of the parts valuations. So because of all these three reasons, looking at Nifty P multiple or market P multiple can give you very erroneous results, which is precisely what happened in March 2020. Most people thought that markets were now getting fairly valued and not very cheap. However, if you look at this slide, it was very evident and clear markets were very cheap, and as we speak now, markets are now trading at a very small premium to their current fair values. Quickly, I will talk about what is this fair value and how is this determined, and is it just a theoretical concept or it is practical. Just remember, we are daily dealing with stocks, prices, etc. So it is very much practical. We are not into the business of teaching, but we are in the business of practicing. So for us, a practical approach is far more important, and which is what we want to highlight here. Remember, theory is not completely separated from practice. This is what is visible there. We have applied a lot of theoretical concepts to arrive at what is very important on a practical basis for us. So in these few slides, I will explain how this is getting practiced. So if you look at this slide, it talks about two-wheeler automobile segment. First box talks about the premium two-wheeler player. Second is the budget two-wheeler player. Note that both these companies have very high returns on equity. However, the crucial point of difference is the second row, which is the premium two-wheeler player is growing at a faster pace compared to the budget two-wheeler player. And that is the source of fair multiples being lower for the budget two-wheeler player compared to the premium two-wheeler player. And the markets are also giving reasonably good multiples. This current multiple is a little dated number. This has now gone up to almost 22. And same goes for the budget two-wheeler players multiple. The current multiple has now gone up to almost 13. However, still the price to value is very much in sync with what the theoretical price to value should be. This slide talks about two different FMCG companies. One is a foods company, large MNC foods company. The second one is a cigarette company. If you notice, yes, cigarette company has slightly lower returns on equity, but the biggest point of difference is the earnings growth. Clearly, the earnings growth is much lower for the foods for the cigarette company compared to the foods company. Also, that is why that is the source of much lower fair P multiple for the cigarette company compared to the foods company. But the market seems to be overestimating both sides. So it is giving a much higher P multiple for the foods company, which is why we are underweight on that. But it is giving a much lower multiple to the cigarette company, which means the price to value is very much attractive in the cigarette company also. This slide talks about the private sector and the PSU. Public sector bank uses a slightly different price to book approach. As you will notice, here in this case, the earnings growth trajectory is not very different. It is, yes, slightly higher for the private sector bank compared to the PSU bank. But the big point of difference here is the returns on equity. And the second big point of difference is the riskiness of business. Remember, PSU banks are predominantly corporate banks, because of which the riskiness is much higher compared to the private sector banks, where the riskiness is much lower. And hence the fair multiple for the private sector bank is 3 times that of the public sector bank. And the markets are clearly recognizing. So remember, you cannot just look at the P multiple and then judge whether something is cheap or expensive. It is the price to value equation which matters the most. Same is the case with this with the IT sector. We are looking at two companies. One is an internet company, which is in the recruitment space, and second is the largest Indian IT services company. The recruiting company is, of course, growing at a faster pace. It is internet-based business, and even though it is riskier, the fair multiple which this company should get is almost more than two times that of the IT services company, which is what the markets are also recognizing. So the price to value equation is very close to each other.
Next is money.
So now some of the big key takeaways which I want you, the participants, to take. First is, remember, just looking at a high, just looking at the P multiple or price to book may not give you any information whether something is expensive or cheap. A high P company may be cheap, and the low P company may be expensive, and vice versa. So it is not of any much use. Key factors to consider and to judge whether a company is cheap or expensive are: first is, what is the sustainable earnings growth? What is the sustainable return on equity in this company? Second is, what is the riskiness of the business? So, for example, a construction business could be much more riskier than an FMCG business. The FMCG business could be far less riskier than an airline business, and so on and so forth. Third is more important: what is the price to value for the business in which I'm buying or selling? The big question to ask before making any equity allocation is the market price to value high or low, and not whether the market P is high or low. This is the biggest and the most popular mistake we have noticed being made by almost all the market participants. They tend to use market P to judge whether markets are cheap or expensive. Be very careful of value traps. And the acid test of that is the fair value growing? If yes, then it's a bargain potentially. And if it is a falling fair value, then it could be a value trap. To stay away from that. Be very careful of index EPS growth or decline. If you look at most brokers or strategy reports, you will come across this discussion. Nifty earnings growth for the next 1 year is 20%, 30%, 10%, doesn't matter. Doesn't tell you anything about underlying fair value changes, so ignore that. The high P of a stock does not mean it's a high growth business, and vice versa. High P multiple could be because if the business might be it might be having less risk, like for example the FMCG companies, or it could be a business which has very high ROE, just like some airline businesses. Finally, the most important conclusion which is coming out of our practical experience is equity is a high duration asset. You would have studied modified duration while valuing bonds, and I'm sure no one talked to you about equities duration. But remember, we have tried to do that at in-house, and we've clearly it's intuitively understood, and practically also we have seen equity has one amongst the highest duration in terms of assets available in the market, and hence equity valuations have a significant inverse relation with the prevailing interest rates, which is what is the most crucial aspect in the current business environment as well. Interest rates are low, and that's fueling equity valuations. With that, I will conclude my speech.
Thank you so much, Vinay sir, for presenting your such a powerful presentation on fair value approach to investing. I'm sure all the participants had a great experience listening to this. Thank you so much, Vinay sir, for being present on this event today on this platform.
Thank you. My pleasure.